everyone and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Katarina. I make videos about beauty and style, focusing on using what I have. I'm trying to be a more mindful consumer. Today we do have a Pan Those Eyeshadows and prep my Pan That palette update. Let's get right into it. I am kinda in a hurry filming today because we are going to Moomin World with kids. Let's start with the Juvias Place, the Nubian 2 eyeshadow palette. A couple of months ago I decided that this is going to be my next year's Pan That palette because it is my oldest pre-made eyeshadow palette now in my collection and I want to get more use out of it. Unfortunately, I was really neglecting this palette when I got it. I have always loved this color story and I have always thought it's a color story that suits me really well. However, I got this palette in 2018. That's also when I started doing Pan That palette for the first time. So this palette just never has gotten the love it deserves. And unfortunately, I have kinda fallen out of love with the color story. There are some colorful shades, for example, that I'm just not that much into. So a couple of months ago I decided that I want to pick 2 shades each month to focus on, and I just want to decide if I want to keep the eyeshadow or declutter it. So before the last update I had gone through only 2 shades. So Jezebel over here I had decided to declutter and Suri over here I had decided to keep. And for the month of July I picked Nefertiti and Egypt. So I actually wore both of these shades twice in July. When I first wore Nefertiti I kinda packed it all over my lid so that it was really opaque and I absolutely hated how it looked. It was just way too bright. I put on false lashes to try to balance it, but I think the lashes made the look even worse. But then I still wanted to wear the eyeshadow for a second time and try to make it as wearable as possible. So I think what I did was that I wore Madagascar as my pre-shade, then I put Nefertiti kinda like to the outer part of the lid and then Suri to the inner part of the lid, and I actually really enjoyed that look. So I actually decided that I am going to keep the eyeshadow. And not only that, but I was actually able to hit pan on Nefertiti. I will say though, both Nefertiti and Egypt are shades that my daughter dug her fingers somewhere in winter. She got her hands on this palette, so it was with help of hers, but either way it is a pan counting towards my pan percentage. But yeah, Nefertiti I am going to keep. Now Egypt, I wore it twice also, and today, by the way, I'm filming on August 1st, but I'm just going to count it towards my July uses anyways. So the first time I wore Egypt was with a really neutral look and I just decided to do an eyeliner with this. It looked so random and it didn't look intentional at all, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to declutter this eyeshadow. I don't like it. But then I thought that, you know what, I'm going to wear it still for this video. Then when I put it on, I was like, oh my god, this is so pretty. Then once I put on more makeup, once I finished the look, I kind of thought that, oh, it's still not my favorite. Let me show you a close-up of the look. It's not like super green. It doesn't, like, my eyeshadow look is not like bam to your face. She's wearing a colorful eyeshadow. But I think it's just, I know that I am not going to be wearing this eyeshadow. Today, as I was doing my makeup, I looked back my 2022 Pan That palette videos because in 2022 I was panning the Sia de London Olivia Palermo palette and it actually came with a green really close to this one. And first, when I started the project, my goal was to hit pan on all of the eyeshadows. And then midway through the year, I realized that there is no way I'm going to hit pan on that green. And then I said that okay, my goal is to use the eyeshadow once a month, but eventually I didn't even reach that goal. Most months I didn't use it at all. It was the only shade by the end of the year that I didn't have pan on. And while I do think this eyeshadow is really pretty, it is really like an autumn green, it is muted, I'm just not going to be reaching for this eyeshadow. Next year, when I'm doing the Pan That palette, I will most likely in the beginning of the year be doing an internship and then the rest of the year working and finishing my studies. My internship will for sure be more or less in a professional setting. Sure, I could maybe make this wearable, but is it something that I would like to wear? No, it's not. And then I feel that for special occasion I would need to push myself to use this. However, at this point I don't want to really have to push myself to wear a makeup item or a specific type of makeup look. I would rather wear a look that is authentic for me. So because of that, although this shade is really beautiful, I'm going to declutter it. I think the shades that I'm going to keep in my Pandos palette, I still want them to be something where I can realistically expect to see some progress. With this one, maybe I could hit pan because there's my daughter's finger marks there. But that's it. I don't think I would see pan expansion or anything. I'm a little bit sad, but at the same time I know it's the right thing to do. I want to have a Pandos palette where all of the shades are wearable for me, and where I won't have a shade that I'm not using and then I'm having this feeling of guilt because I'm not reaching for it, and because of that the shade will be going. Okay, but let's talk about the shades I will be focusing on August. In June and July I had more or less colorful shades because Jezebel in here was a purple shade, and then Nefertiti an orange shade, and Egypt of course a green shade. So I want something really neutral this time, like something that I don't need to really think about. So the shades that I decided to go with are Madagascar and Sheba. I'm actually wearing Madagascar today as my crease or transitioning shade. It is a really nice kind of like yellow toned, mid-toned brown. Really do enjoy this shade. It's a great transition shade for me for like golden toned looks. And then Sheba is a shimmer that matches it really well. I know already that I'm going to keep both of those shades, but I still want to go through all of the shades from this palette. But yeah, that's everything about this Prep My Pandos palette, so let's move on to Pan Those Eyeshadows. So let me show you first a picture of my color story last month, and I will say during the past month I have not been wearing eyeshadow on my everyday basis. To be honest, there has been a lot of days when I have skipped my makeup altogether. However, I see that changing now because my kids will start at daycare. I will have time to focus on YouTube a little bit more before my studies continue, and yeah, I just think it will be a better eyeshadow usage month. Also in summer I'm not that much into eyeshadow altogether, but August starts to feel like a fall month just a little bit. But yeah, anyways, let's go through the progress of my Pan Those Eyeshadows. So from my magnetic palette over here, I am working on the shade Jester from Makeup Geek, which is another green. And I didn't use it at all. I wrote this eyeshadow in this project in May and I wore it twice then. In June I didn't wear it. Well, in June it's not necessarily a shade that I would be that much into, but now again in July I just didn't reach for it. I had to really push myself to reach for Egypt. So I'm not wondering that I didn't reach for this, but now in August I really need to use it. Like, unless I use it at least twice, I'm going to declutter it. Like, this is a threat for myself. I need to use it if I want to keep it, because there's no point holding on to eyeshadows that I don't use. And anyways, I think now we're getting into season when I would be into something like this. So it's a little bit colorful, but it is still really muted. And now I do have a little bit tan to my skin, so I feel it's maybe a little bit easier for me to pull off a shade like this compared to when I am my palest. So I need to reach for it at least twice, otherwise it's going. Other than that, there's not really progress on this palette. During this project I have hit some pans here organically, like the eyeshadows were not part of my Pan Those Eyeshadows, but I still hit them. Oh, and by the way I do my Pan Those Eyeshadows is that from all of my eyeshadow palettes, which I do have 4 after the Juvias placed the Nubian 2 eyeshadow palette, from all of my 4 eyeshadow palettes I am randomizing one eyeshadow, and my goal is to use it 10 times, so it's not even to hit pan, but just to get used. But yeah, clearly this is a shade that is difficult for me to reach. Okay, then I do have 2 of these Huda Beauty 9-pan palettes, and the first is the Gold Obsessions eyeshadow palette. From this one I randomized a new shade into this project last update, and the shade I got is the 3rd shade over here. And that is like a cooler toned shade. It's almost like a taupe. And I got to say, I don't like this eyeshadow. I feel a little bit conflicted with Huda eyeshadow formula. The mattes I do really like, but with shimmers, some of them are amazing and some of them are just like really dry, and I feel this is one of those. Like, it doesn't wash well, it doesn't look nice on my eyes, it feels dry, and I just don't really love it. So we'll see. Like, this is a shade that in winter I might actually enjoy using it as my all over lid shade, but I just feel it's slightly uncomfortable to use. So yeah, anyways, I wore it 3 times. I think that is surprisingly good, because this really is not a summery shade for me, because it's leaning a little bit cool. And I actually might get to 10 uses in August, who knows. I'm not going to set it an official goal, but if in the end of the month I notice that I'm close, then I maybe will push myself a little bit to get to that. Then I do have another Huda Beauty Obsessions palette. This is the Toffee Brown Obsession, and this palette I actually like way better. I think the shimmer formula here is better and I like the color story more. From this eyeshadow palette I was working on the reddish brown shade, the 3rd shade over here. It is a matte. I rolled it in June, I believe, and I wore it 4 times 10, and I wore it 6 more times in July, and I got to 10 uses. So this will be rolling out. We will be rolling in a new shade from this palette, but before that I was actually able to hit a bonus pan on this palette, so I hit pan on this 6th shade. This one actually was part of this project, I believe, in April and May, or maybe it was only May and then I got the 10 uses up during that 1 month. I'm not sure right now, but then I used it again this month and hit pan. So yeah, these pans are really shallow. I think it took total 11 uses to hit that pan. Happy to have pan there and happy to be rolling in another shade from this palette. But before that we do have one more palette to talk about. So the ABH Soft Glam palette. I know this palette is a little bit older, but for me this is actually my newest palette. I got it right in the like change of year. I think I ordered it like last day of December and got it early January. Anyways, from this palette I'm working on this shade Bronze over here. It is like a golden toned eyeshadow. I'm not now exactly sure when I actually rolled this eyeshadow into this project, like if it was in May or June, but either way I had worn it 5 times before this month and I wore it 3 more times. So I am at 8 uses now. For sure by the next update I will get to 10 uses. And I'm actually wearing just a little bit of this eyeshadow today. I'm wearing from the Juvias Place palette the shade Egypt and Surrey, and I'm wearing this one just like a little bit in the middle to get those two a little bit closer to each other. Okay, but let's talk about my pan percentage next. There's actually a pretty nice increase because I hit 2 new pans, but also decluttering an eyeshadow makes a difference because my numbers are pretty low at this point. I don't anymore now, although I do still have the Egypt shade in the palette. I'm going to crush it later today or tomorrow at least. I am not counting it anymore towards my inventory. Okay, so last month I had total 58 eyeshadows in my collection. I had hit pan on 9 and my pan percentage was 15.52. Now I have 57 eyeshadows in my collection since I decided to declutter Egypt, and I have hit pan on 11 eyeshadows, and that makes my pan percentage 19.30. We'll see if there is any new pans that I will hit next month. And then we're still going to randomize a new shade. I saw somebody else doing Pan Those Eyeshadows and complaining about a pretty random app being updated, and I can see it now and I got to say I don't like it either. So yeah, we are going to randomize a new shade from the Huda Beauty Toffee Brown Obsessions eyeshadow palettes. I don't want to randomize something where I have already hit pan on, so there's 7 shades where there's not pan. So I do have here in my pretty random app numbers from 1 through 7, and let's randomize. We got number 6. Okay, so I know I will be jumping over a couple of shades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got this kind of like golden tone shade, and this looks like it's going to be really similar to the ABH Bronze shade. However, I'm still going to go with this one because there's only 2 more uses I need for bronze, and I actually have not worn this eyeshadow at all yet. I got this palette last Black Friday and this is one of the shades that I have not reached. I think it might be the only shade from this palette that I have not used, so it's time to get used to this shade too. I will swatch the new color story that I have later, and I will put here a picture of what it's looking like. But that is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're doing Pan Those Eyeshadows or Pan That Palette, let me know. Those are some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give this video a like, and if you're not subscribed, I would love it if you do. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you on my next one. Bye bye.